I'm Jan Powley. This is my husband Craig with me, and we have lived in this house since 1984. It was Craig's grandfather's house, and it was built in 1890. And he was just a poor farmer, and it was all, he had fruit trees and he had other crops. He had a dairy, and now we just have 7 acres of gardens. About 3 acres or so is a horse pasture. But we just keep adding new gardens. We start our own seeds, and we just have a lot of fun with we aren't actually breeding things, but if we see something has seeded, like I've got some clematis that I found that have reseeded themselves. I think I'm up to 19 clematis. And because we do things organically here, bugs aren't really a problem, and disease isn't too bad of it. We have some tomato problems, but for the most part, the flower gardens are disease-free. Whenever we put anything in the ground, whether it's the flowers or the vegetables, we always give it a little shot of organic fertilizer as we're putting it in the ground. And then in the fall, when the leaves fall, we rake all the leaves, and we always put the leaves on the garden. And then we mulch everything with straw. And then the landscape fabric we just started using a couple years ago, and we like to put that down under the trailing things, like under the cucumbers or the cantaloupe or the melons or whatever is trailing. And it has really helped with the weeds. But the straw between the rows looks really nice, and it breaks down, so it's adding a lot of organic matter, and it really works really well. And again, we do wide rows. We don't do like a single planting, because then they shade themselves. Sometimes in the strawberries, you get a little bit of slug problem when it's too close. But you can just put a board down, and then when you pick it up in the morning, you can pick the slugs off from underneath it. So we have 4 horses, and what we've started to do, we've been doing it for a while, when we clean up the horse pen where they've been outside, we clean up the manure every day to keep the flies down. And we just started piling the manure in a big section. We just pick a spot on the lawn and just start dumping the manure there. And then after 2 years, it turns into this amazingly fertile soil. And this is the first year we've planted in this, and the stuff is it's so happy here. You can see our tomato plants, we need to tie them up a little bit more. And I'm in the Buffalo Weavers Guild, and I'm doing a workshop with a friend of mine, Phyllis Vassbinder, and she asked me to grow the things. We're going to do a botanical weaving. So I'm growing statice and gomphrena and straw flowers and lavender, and I'll probably, artemisia, and we use the flowers in the actual weaving. So I've never done it myself, but Phyllis has, and now I'm growing all the flowers so we can see how that works. But growing in this horse manure it's gold. Everything does well.
So this is our greenhouse, and we recycle whatever we can. I was on a job one time where these windows were being replaced, and I asked what was happening with them, and they were going to be thrown out. So I said, okay, I'll take them, and I designed this greenhouse around the size of the windows that were available. And it's worked out well for what we needed. Jen started probably 200 flats in there this spring, which was pretty much all of our vegetable plants, and a lot of her flowers were produced in this greenhouse. We had to add on last year because it wasn't quite enough space. But this is what you can do with when you have things that are available and recycle.
So the year that we moved into this house, where we're standing now, this was all cornfield, and we wanted some trees. We wanted privacy, and there was some Acer rubrum. It's a maple variety, and they multiply really easily. And so we would just keep moving babies. And the original farm from this there was about 200 acres. So we would go over in the woods and we'd dig up oak trees, and we moved them here. And then I got some sycamore seed. I wanted to try growing those from seed. So I have sycamore seed. And we've got some sycamores now that are 20 feet tall that I started from seed. And now I'm messing around with alders and Osage orange. I planted the whole Osage to see if it would work. And it did. Now I have Osage orange babies. And then all the babies we get from Niagara County Soil and Water, the evergreens, and they just really do well. So it's always fun to find a new tree that we can try. We've got red oak and white oak and pin oak. And I think the only tree we've bought here is the linden tree in the front yard. The rest of them we've all found, and we just trim them and just have a lot of fun with them. And because we do everything organically here, it's even more, I think because the soil is so happy and the grounds are so happy that there's no chemicals, things just thrive. Craig and I both feel this way, that if you know, we enjoy it so much. We spend hours out here every day. But if you don't have the time or you're just not interested in growing, then you should, I really feel it's important that you should be eating really clean food, not full of chemicals. And if you're not into all that thing, then really support the local farmers that are putting all these hours in. They, you know, they're trying to make a living, and you're going to be so much better off if you're eating all this food that isn't full of chemicals and pesticides.